This great August house once again at UCP. So while I was talking to the organizers, they told me that they want me to talk about the future of entrepreneurs in Pakistan, something that's very close to my heart. For a country like Pakistan, जिसके लिए हमने बहुत सारी कुर्बानियां दी हैं, that was exciting part for me. But the next part that they told me, that's where the things changed. That's where I thought about should I not talk about it. They said that they want me to speak something under the ambit of Iqbal. Now that's very big shoes that you want to talk about. That's something that you really need to be knowing your subject before you talk about. Now Iqbal in himself, if you look at Iqbal, if you study through his journey, that's a big man that you're talking about, a huge stature. And then the contribution to Pakistan that he's done, everything that they talk about in terms of the journey for Pakistan, the dreaming of Pakistan, and from generation to generation, his motivating those very individuals. I think those are very big shoes to fill. So while I go on and on, so bear with me if I make any mistake, because A, I'm humbled that I do speaking to UCP, and above all, I'm humbled that speaking on a topic that's under the theme of Iqbal. So that's something that's very close. So forgive me if I go somewhere astray or if I go somewhere wrong, so please. So let me just start with the idea. So Iqbal is somebody who's talking about what? He's talking about your country. So he's talking about people that you need to be, in your own order. You need to be awake. He's talking about wo jazbaat ki baat kar raha hai, wo shaheenon ki baat kar raha hai. And that's what we're lacking these days. If you look at Pakistan right now, where are we? When we talk about sports, you talk about economics, you talk about security, there are a lot of things that are all over the place. But there's one thing that we always find solace, is in this word. If you look at Iqbal, that's not a menu square, that's not a code of life, but he's telling you how to live your life. He's telling you that if you find your own value, that's when you become what he's asking you. He's asking you for that manifestation of that human being. So let's start with the idea about what Iqbal's been talking about. He talks about the individuals of Muslims. He's talking about the creation of God. He's talking about from throughout the time, he's talking about different individuals. That if you realize your potential, if you understand who you are, that's where the game changes. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. And that's the thing that I'm talking about. How can entrepreneurs in Pakistan can actually change the whole thing? So let's look at Pakistan, quick snap, right in 2025. What's Pakistan? Pakistan right now is a huge population. 70% of Pakistan's population is under 30. That means that's where the ball game is. So as youth, as people who are actually the change makers, a country can change when its youth start taking place. You look at examples all across the world. You look at Bangladesh, you look at India, you look at everywhere across the world. The youth has always brought that change. You look at Turkey in 2015-16. The youth brought that change. So if you really want to bring that change, it starts with you guys. Everybody sitting in this hall, anybody who listens to this, it's those individuals who actually shape that whole category of how the country works. So we're actually relying on the idea that the youth is actually the wings of the nation. So before I talk about this, so I really want to talk about Iqbal's vision to action. Let's talk about Pakistan. What are the entrepreneurs of Pakistan doing right now? A, we're under the scrutiny of red tape. There are a lot of corruption going on. There's a lot of barriers to doing business in Pakistan. But at the realm of it, there's still Pakistan thriving. You look at individuals who, from time to time, change the whole ballgame. You look at Ashad Nadeem, breaks the world record for Olympics. Another is somebody who's representing the youth. You look at individuals who actually change. You look at people in Microsoft. You look at people across the IT sector in Pakistan. They're actually changing, shaping the whole imagination of how Pakistan does. You look at recently Harvard MUN, LUMS team won the whole Harvard MUN for the small delegates. You're looking at individuals who are actually shaping or bringing Pakistan on that map. And that's what Iqbal's been asking you to do. Iqbal's been asking you to bring that entrepreneurial spirit in you. He's asking you to make sure that that change that you talked about has to be there. On the next level, he's not asking you to go to Silicon Valley. He's not asking you to go to Silicon Valley and start being it. But he's asking you to bring that entrepreneurial spirit. He's asking you from time to time, understand your value. As Pakistanis, we're probably one of the best nations in the world who can hustle on their feet. Every limitation that you have, हमारे पास load shedding होती है, हमारे पास हर किस्म के मसले होते हैं, but we still hustle. We still hustle from time to time, and from time to time, you will be amazed how we change the scope of Pakistan. हर 2-3 साल बाद में पता चलता है किसी पाकिस्तानी ने कुछ नया कर दिया. You look at it in terms of technology, you talk about it in terms of education, you talk about anything in the world. You will see from time to time a Pakistani changing the ball game. And that's what he's asking you. He is asking you to change that whole narrative. He's asking you to make sure that you change the ball game. Why? Because I'm going to about that. We went through COVID, we went through a lot of things. एक पाकिस्तानी जो 2G के ऊपर बैठ के उसने ऑनलाइन क्लासेस दी. and then changing the landscape. Why? Because that's resilience in them. That is the whole idea. Gilgit-Baltistan के पहाड़ों के बीच में जहाँ internet non-existent होता है, there are still students that male or female still changes the ballgame. Why? Because that's the resilience that they're talking about. अब उस शायरी के बीच में और उस experience के बीच में, I want to talk about my journey. Just for 5 minutes, I want to talk about that journey. So you understand this. For me, a lot of my batchmates, and that's the same problem going through. We're going through this whole youth budget path. We're seeing a lot of talent being going abroad. We're seeing a lot of our batchmates are going abroad. A lot of experienced individuals are going abroad. But we see that brain drain that we're seeing, we have to stop that. And why? So I've worked with media. I've worked with a lot of corporate giants in the last 7-10 years. I've worked with Coca-Cola company. I've worked with Majid, which is a Middle East group. So across them, I looked after Coke Studio for the longest time. So during my time, we made the national anthem. We did this Raya Mat Ke Shaheedo. Then we did a lot of redemption on Pakistan. We did a lot of poetry as well. We did Bol Ke Lab Azad. We also did Hum Dekhenge. So a lot of redemption in terms of, for me, because that's the resilience we talk about. As a nation, we're resilient. So why does that teach me? So while I was going through that whole process, a lot of time Iqbal teaches you that. When you're on your ground, you start thinking, yaar, main kya kare? So that's where Iqbal comes in. Now, entrepreneurs के लिए ना मेरी एक ही होती है. Anybody and everybody who's a business major, who's an economics major, who's an engineer, who's a software engineer, trying to do something, you have to create your niche. Right now, what you understand is that it's the AI time. You have to understand that the next 5 to 10 years, it's all about AI. लोग ये कहेंगे जी machines are going to take over, that's not going to happen. For example, 25-30 साल पहले आपके पास कैलकुलेटर्स आए, लोगों ने कहा जी लोगों के दिमाग स्लो हो जाएगा, अब सारा कुछ कैलकुलेटर से करेंगे. In fact, contrary to popular belief, the actual opposite happened. You start becoming much more powerful. Why? Because you started using that tool to become much more smarter. Why? Because a lot of times you get work smart, not hard. So you have to be understanding the limits के आपने यार टेक्नोलॉजी को किस तरह यूज करना है. आपके पास बाहर गाड़ी है, वो गाड़ी आपको इस्लामाबाद में 4 घंटे में लेके जा सकती है और आप बाहर खड़े होकर भी शौकत खाना में गोल चक्कर में जी आप प्लेन्स मारते हैं. So that's your own idea what you want to do. You will go to Islamabad, go to attend some conference, attend some university project, or be in Lahore at midnight and spinning around your car. So it's actually how you use technology. So it's important that the entrepreneurial spirit of resilience. Again, I stress a lot about entrepreneurial resistance, a lot of that perseverance that you have to come across. There's this amazing quote that I always quote around: perseverance commands success. आपको जिंदगी में कुछ भी करना है. That is that perseverance that you talk about, and that flows through entrepreneurs. If you look at your own school education, आप देखो perseverance एक चीज आपको perseverance सिखाएगी. आप लोग स्कूल में साथ में conversation, you've got your incubation centers there. There's an incubation center in UCP. There's an incubation center in Lahore, which is called the NIC. So there are a lot of incubation centers that they're prevalent. They're talking there. So you really need to go up. The world is at your feet. So as individuals who at this age, it is the world is at your feet. The world stands for you. अब आपको खुद decide करना है कि what you want. Some of the other guys. It is exactly what you want and what you want to do. That's why I have always loved coaching anyone's team as well. As somebody who was a Park team debater throughout my life, I've coached the Park team. I've been a Park team member myself. Why did I not need debating? It's because that's where the young minds are. That's where the actual people are. That's where smart people, and I'm not saying that's the only place where smart people are, but debaters generally have this voice. And why do I stress on debaters? Because a lot of times for Pakistan, you need to voice. We have got all the talent pool here, but what doesn't happen is that voice doesn't go through. So a funny story, so I was in the US, I was in the State Department in the White House, I was having this conversation with the US Senator Raza, and ironically it was the State Department at that time, Anthony Blinken was the Secretary of State. So we started having a conversation with him, and he started having the resistance conversation, and that's one thing that he told me was that there's this huge amount of resilience that these Pakistani people show, and then there are a lot of things, that a lot of talent that you guys have is never voiced. And that's when I realized that when I came back, I started talking to debating coaches in Pakistan. I started talking to a lot of debaters in Pakistan. I told them one thing: start empowering the people in your camp. Start telling them to bring more people in. Because the more people that you have, the more stronger that you become. Because I can bet everybody in this room who's sitting has some talent. And that talent will come out if you're able to voice it. It's not only important that you have that talent, but that it's also important that you'll be able to put that talent on the face of the map. Why do some individuals outshine the others? मैं आया, for example, मुझे phone आया कि आपने बोलना है. If I was an introvert, I would have shied away from this opportunity. The only reason why I'm always able to come to these events is because I've been trained in such a manner by debating public schools that you're able to speak. And that's why I always tell Pakistan first. हमारा सबसे बड़ा मसला पाकिस्तान में क्या है? We're divided by religion, we're divided by caste, we're divided by 1,001 things. We're living in the past illusion of Pakistan. If you look around yourself, everything that you see around is either divided by religion or caste. The last invention that Pakistanis had is probably a Muslim shower or a charpai. That's literally the last that I can remember that we did. If you look at your missiles, you look at your tanks, everything is either divided by religion. After your tanks, and they're not named after your heroes. Your missiles, yes, they shine, one they shine. So a lot of your missiles, a lot of your tanks are named after Muslim conquerors. Agreed. बहुत अच्छी बात है. हमारे मुस्लिम, हमारे सरांकों पे. But that delusional idea of those Mongols, Turks, those Mongols, Turks, हम अभी भी अपने उस पुराने 150 साल पुरानी हिस्ट्री में जी रहे हैं. If you look at countries who have actually moved on, वो अपने present heroes को identify करते हैं, वो resilience लेते हैं, वो entrepreneurship में invest करते हैं. If you look at, let's say, Istanbul, or if you look at India or Bangladesh, they actually identify our own heroes. हमारे पास इतने heroes हैं, हर साल हम देख सकते हैं unsung heroes आ रहे होते हैं, because we just don't know how to actually, हम celebrate करना भूल चुके हैं अपने heroes को. हम लोग इतने diverge हो चुके हैं कि एक दूसरे की टांग खींचने में अपने heroes को celebrate करना भूल जाते हैं. आज हम इकबाल के ऊपर बोल रहे हैं. How many roads do you have which are named after Iqbal? How many battalions in the army are named after Iqbal? How many parties are actually manifesting, political parties are actually manifesting Iqbal's motto? You can think about it. That's the food of thought I eat for you. So you understand this, अपने national heroes को celebrate करो. Entrepreneurship जब ही आएगी जब आपको अपने पे खुद गर्व होगा, जब अपने पाकिस्तान, अपने मुल्क के लिए कुछ करना चाहते हैं. खुद गर्व में वही होती हैं जो अपने entrepreneurs, अपने heroes को celebrate कर सकें. And that's the spirit. You entrepreneurs, it's not just about making money. That's a great thing to do. But the biggest thing that you can do is wear that flag on your shoulder. Is to be standing in an international ground and being able to sing your national anthem. That is the biggest proud moment. That if you've ever been to an international event, सबसे ज़्यादा खुशी जो सबसे ज़्यादा आपको आती है ना, it's not if you won an MU1, if you won a competition, if you won anything. It is that moment when the Pakistani flag is brought on that stage, and that is the biggest proud moment that you can be. So that is why I stress. Bring that uncapped potential, untapped Pakistani जिसकी हम heroes की बात कर रहे हैं ना, उससे बात करते हैं. Why? Because अब entrepreneurs पाकिस्तान में देखो, यार system सारा टूटा हुआ है. आप टैक्स के लिए जाओगे वहाँ SBI वाला आपको स्टोरी सुनाएगा. So a lot of things are broken. There's red tape. There's so many things that are broken with the system. But we should stop complaining. Why? Because जिससे कुछ करना होता है ना, they break this drive of the system. The system, yes, in the last 10-15 years has started to make some changes. पिछले 10-15 साल में you see a lot of things are happening for good. आप अपना infrastructure देख लो, आप अपनी economic development देख लो. Political debate अपनी तरफ अलग जगह होती है. That's good to have a political. But if you look at the overall things, good चीजें आ रही हैं. Yes, थोड़ा सा हम लोग का लैंडस्केप मसला आ जाता है, but if you're thinking in the right direction, the things happening for good. 60% आपकी आबादी is under the age of 30. That means there is 60% और आपकी what 24-25 करोड़ आवाम से 60% 30 साल के नीचे. That means that is that's a whole stream that you can actually change. So उस 30 साल के नौजवान को या मर्द या खातून जो भी हो, उसको if you just give them that direction, या इस direction को पकड़ लें. कोई एक चीज, for example, मेरी पहली नौकरी लगी. I was probably one of the lowest qualified person at home because I only had an undergrad degree. The only thing that I sold was that I was a public speaker. So you need to find your niche. हर बंदे को अपनी niche पता होती है, यार ये जो मैं कर रहा हूँ या कर रही हूँ ना, that's the best I can do, and that's what an entrepreneur is. What is that? What does an entrepreneur actually mean? Is that risk appetite? Is that ability to identify that यार ये जो मैं कर सकता हूँ या कर सकती हूँ ना, that's the best that I can do, and that's where it is. It is that perseverance that you understand that this is the best I could do, and that's where you win. And that's where Pakistan's perseverance, resilience is actually talking about, and that's what I'm saying. So we need to identify. Then मेरे ख्याल से there's 3 strategic shifts that I've actually identified by working in the corporate sector for the last 10 years. I've actually understood that there's 3 strategic shifts that we want to talk about. Then A, it's exporting talent to building platforms. It's funding startups to funding resilience, and the legacy of thinking for Iqbal. Why do I say this? बिकॉज आपके पास सबसे जरूरी चीज जो है वो आपका टैलेंट है. If you look at around the world, सबसे बड़ा talent pool, you look at Google CEO, you look at Microsoft CEO, all of them have a talent exported from a certain country. When you start exporting that talent, you bring yourself on the world map. And I think it's important that this talent that we have, we start exporting the ideas. The second is your startups. किसी भी इकोनॉमी के अंदर ना डिस्ट्रप्शन जब ही आती है जब स्टार्टअप करना शुरू होता है. आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू लर्न कि यूसीपी ने अपना शुरू कर दिया. आई एम श्योर क्लास हैव हैड अ ह्यूज हैंड इन इट. So that whole mentorship, that whole entrepreneurial spirit जो होती है ना, that's important. And the third is that legacy that Iqbal teaches us from time to time. So you need to understand that resilience that you talk about. Before I go, I would really want to make sure that I give you 10 pointers that you want to think about. I know a lot of people for us have been thinking of why should we believe in Pakistan. I will give you 10 reasons to believe in Pakistan. One is that spirit of youth. Every one of you who's sitting here, that's that whole spirit. The second is the land of entrepreneurs. यार आप अपनी एग्जाम्पल देखो, हर शहर के अंदर, हर गली के अंदर कोई ना कोई एंटरप्रेन्योर जरूर होता है. चाहे वो खजे के पाए वाला हो, चाहे वो निहारी वाला हो, चाहे वो डिबेटिंग स्कूल खोलकर बैठ गया हो, चाहे वो स्कूल. आजकल पैडल के कोर्स चल रहे हैं. Start investing in those. If you feel that you have a sports enthusiasm, start investing in sports. Paddle sports किस तरह चल रहा है? Somebody, one person brought the whole idea of that paddle and it just sprung up. 10 साल पहले फुटबॉल ग्राउंड चलना शुरू हो गया. स्पोर्ट्स एक्चुअली बिल्डिंग नेशन. If you look at Nelson Mandela, उसकी पूरी जो इन्विक्टिस है, he talks about how he built a nation through sport. उसने रग्बी को यूज किया to building a nation. हम भी देख लो, from time to time country अपने वर्स्ट सिचुएशन में क्रिकेट आती है and we as a nation. So I think it's that building that whole nation that you talk about is very important. The third is cultural powerhouses. You have got huge amount of culture that you can promote. There's huge diverse culture. For the company that I've worked in, Coke Studio, we've tried to bring that culture. We've tried to portray that whole culture. There's resilience in chaos. Everything that we've been through, there's still resilience around. Women breaking I am a huge staunch believer of women empowerment. You look around, you have a female chief minister in Pakistan, you've had a female prime minister in Pakistan. So those are breaking this chaos. It's breaking. Women are actually bringing, or as Majid said, no country can actually, progress if women are not in the workforce, they're not representing Pakistan. So I ask and I pledge and I request every woman in this hall actually start making those changes. I know that they all just start against you. I know that the ecosystem at times really portrays you, pushes you back, but you've got to break that chaos. Break those barriers, and I'm very hopeful that Pakistani women are going to bring up that change. The sixth thing is tech. Again, huge thing. I talked about AI. Tech is that thing we're talking about. The untapped power of the 140 million youth, 60% of the population. Forgive me, my math is wrong. Not a mathematician, but I've just done the dirty math. So 140% of the youth. Talking about global recognition. Look at about the Forbes 30 under 30. A lot of times, every time that you see those Forbes 30 under 30, you'll see a Pakistani springing up. National storytellers. You look at Mola Chart, you look at a lot of these things. What are they doing? They're actually storytelling the Pakistani people. So believe in your stories, believe in your myths. And the last is Iqbal's dream. As I close this speech, I would say again, Iqbal, from time to time, Iqbal really moves me. खुद ही होकर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से पूछे बता दे रज़ा क्या. Thank you very much, guys.